Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Blonde Cafe podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Villanueva, and I'm your 29-year-old millennial gal just out here living my best life. And I'm here to help give you the tips, tricks, and tools to live your best life. And today, if you're watching on video, I am joined by a very special person in my life. I have known him for all 29 years of my existence, since the day I was born, and I'm so happy to have him on here. This is my dad, if you're not watching on video, and he's the jack of all trades. He's been a business owner, he's now retired, he has had a lot of career experience that he's taught me along the way. Seriously, I was just telling him a few minutes ago about how I've implemented pretty much every single tip that he's given me, and it's been successful my entire life. So everything from, interviewing at my first job at 14 years old at the Snow Shack, if you're familiar, to interviewing for my second corporate job outside of college. I've done it all in between, and he's helped me through it. So now I'm bringing him here on the podcast to help you through it. And I really this is something that I'm so passionate about because, as you know here, we're out here to live our best lives. I truly, truly believe you can have it all. You can have a successful career. You can have a successful family. You can have that joy and that passion and that love for your life. It's just finding those little nuances along the way that help you get there. So this is a very inspirational person that has helped me get there. And without further ado, welcome, Dad.
Thanks. And it's always good to be on your show. And I appreciate you thinking of me. And I love your comments. They make me feel good. But it's important over the years, the stuff we've talked about has actually worked. It's actually been beneficial, whether it's an interview or just starting the podcast you're doing or moving to Virginia Beach when you were younger, right out of college. And it's just everything you've done has been an inspiration to me, and you've done a great job of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I know we've joked around about this before, but it's I truly, I wouldn't be who I am and have that courage and that inspiration to go off and leave 2 days after college and hope that it works out. If it wasn't for all of these tips that you've instilled in me.
Well, you're not afraid to take risks, so that's good.
No, and you've taught me firsthand how to do it. So I know we talked about a couple questions for you. I'm really excited to share with the listeners. We've pared it down. If you guys did have a chance to catch the very brief episode beforehand, you might know some of these, but we've really taken the nuts and bolts and gotten nitty gritty with it. So we are giving you those tried and true tips, and we cut out a little bit of the extra in between. So
sometimes I talk too much. So this is good for me, Brooke, because I love it's kind of like you're interviewing me, and it's like, tell me this, tell me that. Sometimes if I get to talking, I was telling you the other day, the important thing for one person out there may be 45 minutes into the conversation, and we've lost them by then. This time we've got an agenda. We're going to go down the list. You've got great questions for me that you've prepared, and I've had a chance to look over them and fine tune my answers a little bit more than just blah, 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 keep going, talking, and, on to the next subject. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm super excited. I think I've pared down these questions to things that will really resonate with people, whether they're in a hard spot in their current career or they're wanting to change careers or just kind of that life dad style advice. So without further ado, our first question is all about career confidence and getting started. So if somebody feels unqualified for a job that they want, what's the first step that they can take to build the confidence to go for it?
Well, if you feel unqualified, basically that's your own problem. It's not up to you to decide whether you're qualified or not. It's up to the person that is interviewing you, the company that is looking to fill these positions. So yes, you're defeated before you walk in the door. It's not a good thing. So you got to get over that. You've got to let that go. You've got to have the attitude, yes, I can. Yes, I've done similar things like this before. It may not be that exact thing, but it's close enough. It brings value in different ways that a company would maybe be very interested in if you give them a chance to talk to you. If you don't go to the interview because you chicken out or you feel like you just said, I don't feel qualified, so I'm not going to even apply. Well, then, you're never going to find out, and they're never going to have the opportunity to maybe talk to the best candidate that they can have that day. Anyway, I think the important thing is Until you go out and try, um, and fail or succeed, then you're not going to know. And so just go do it, as they say, and enjoy it. And you will fail, at times, but you won't always fail. And once you start succeeding, um, you're going to build more confidence.
Yeah. And I think that failure part is really important because I think that's what holds people back, because they're afraid. They're afraid of what if I get there and I say the wrong thing, or I can't think of an answer, or I'm just sweating buckets and I stumble on my words. And I think that's the piece of advice that you've instilled in me is that it's okay. You have to try. You're never going to know unless you try. And then you get better as you go on and keep going. So with
Yes.
that, a lot of people, they might try different careers throughout their life. They might be on the opposite end of the spectrum where they stick with one career because that's what they signed up to do. That's what they know. They're afraid of trying something different. What's the benefit of trying multiple different careers instead of sticking with one path that you're not sure about?
Well, I mean, if you're happy in your job, there's nothing wrong with staying there, staying with it. If you love the company you're working with, or maybe it's your own business and you're successful and things are going well, then if it's not broke, don't fix it. But for the most part, of the what I hear and what I've done in my own life is I stayed at jobs longer than probably I should have because they paid the bills. I have obligations to my family. I don't want to take too many risks and stuff like that. So, I mean, the benefit of trying different careers is that you're able to find out what you're good at. You don't know that until you go out and try other things. I mean, we a lot of times limit ourselves. And, in your career, if you try something new versus staying in the same field, your whole life can then change. And you can really find out what your limit is. You may not know it. I mean, I didn't know my limit was, where it ended up being back from my college days and my first few jobs and going from management to sales, blah, 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 and all the way through. It's like, you don't know. I mean, but some people just stop at the first job, the second job, the third job, or they just switch into the same field. For example, well, I work for this company doing this, so maybe I'll just switch to that other company, but I'm doing the same job. So
Mhm.
it's a switch. Maybe you get a better pay. Maybe it's, a better company. But did you really improve or risk or try something else that maybe is out of your comfort zone? You don't know until you try it, I guess is what I'm saying. So give it a try. And, you got to understand there will be times that things don't work out so well, but usually it happens at the interview. And let's be honest, Brooke, what happens at the interview just isn't an interview. You go home, you get a letter saying you didn't get the job, and then you're like, what did I do wrong? What is wrong with me? Why don't I meet up? Why don't I? Well, it's not that you don't, it's just that you didn't. Today you
Mhm.
didn't. That doesn't mean tomorrow you won't. You got to keep working.
Yeah. I'm saying hell yeah to that because that I've seen a lot of my friends, and some colleagues throughout college and stuff like that. I've seen them kind of stop themselves because they get bummed out when they get that letter of rejection. They
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of are like, "Well, man, I applied to 3 jobs and haven't heard back," or they told me they didn't want me, and so guess that's that. Guess I'm sticking in this path, or I guess I'm not meant to go that way. And that's I
In the
think where the
beginning,
rubber.
I remember, sorry to interrupt. I
Oh,
remember in
no.
the beginning getting a letter from that company. I'm like, "Oh, wow, here it is. And it's always a rejection. And I learned that over time. But at first, you don't know that. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
let's see what.
Really.
Oh, okay. We decided to go a different direction, whatever. But it's like, there's no harm. You didn't get selected. There were some jobs I didn't get selected for, and I'm glad I didn't because they weren't that great of jobs. But I thought at the time they were the right job for me or they were the right opportunity for me, but they didn't pick me. So again, anytime you get that, now it's the time to say soul search. What can I do better? What did I do potentially wrong? Where did I mess up? Or what am I lacking that they're needing that I don't have? So anyway,
Yeah. That's the perfect segue into our next question is how can someone start giving themselves credit for their skills that they do have and accomplishments when they feel like they don't measure up. So that kind of blends in with the first question a little bit. But if
Mhm.
they say they get that rejection letter, but then they're like, no, actually, I do have this skill that I've earned, or I did do this XYZ thing.
I think one of the things we don't realize that we may be better than we think initially. And I went to school to be a teacher, as we've talked about in the past. A lot of businesses want business degrees. A lot of businesses want or sales positions. They want a marketing degree or like other people already have. But when you look at my degree in teaching, and I started thinking, it's like, well, what exactly is a teacher? When I
Mhm.
started analyzing, well, I've got to convince these children or these kids or these students what I'm saying is important. I've got to convince them to pay attention. I've got to have control. I've got to be organized. I've got to be punctual with, getting all this done in 35, 45 minutes, whatever class time you have. And so it translates. A lot of the things we do, it may not be a degree in that field, but a lot of education or job experience translates to others. Working in a fast food restaurant translates to so many things: customer
Yeah.
service, being able to do the cash register and understanding problem solving, or what happens if this fails. That you're working the front counter and you have a complaint, or there's something going on in the restaurant and you got to solve a problem. A lot of these things are just they happen in other companies. So
Mhm.
you may believe that you're not as good as you are, but if you take time and think about what you've succeeded at, I mean, you probably are better than you realize, and you can give yourself credit for the things you didn't realize. It's like, well, I don't have that degree. Well, you don't, but you have experience. And
Yeah.
you were going to be, in my case, a teacher, and all that translates into the business world. And
Mhm.
now you got to sell these companies on that. You got to convince them that, well, that's a good answer. I believed it. I mean, I honestly believed it, Brooke. So I think my passion and my honesty, my words, it's like, they're like, if they had not thought about it, they're like, "Oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense." Being a teacher sounds like a different type of job of being a manager or being a salesperson, but in all honesty, it's the same thing. You're just doing it in the classroom versus, or in my case, I wanted to coach on the football field, on the basketball court. You're convincing, teaching, educating. We're educating all the time at work. So I think that's just, it translates. And if you look at what you've done in the past, it translates, so.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think too, I know we briefly were talking about like whether or not these tips stand the test of time, basically. And,
Yeah.
you were learning to be a teacher back then, and it was 1984, and now it's 2025, almost 2026. The beautiful thing is that you had to do it the hard way. You had to come up with these ideas yourself, or talk to people, learn from others in person. And there's so much of a value to that. And now we have technology. We have Google. We have back in the day, you might have had encyclopedias, but nobody's really going to those. But now we have AI, and this is like this is a big deal too that I was thinking about as you were saying it, where if somebody's having trouble really connecting those dots for themselves, maybe they can type those things into Chat GPT or any sort of AI platform and say, this is what I do on a daily basis at my teaching job, for example. How can I translate these skills into a sales position? And that might be a good way for people to be able to apply it even now if they can't think of those things on their own. Because you did it the hard way. And everybody, like, I think, we can still come up with those ideas, but now we could even do it better.
It's easier today, but the hard work helps give you confidence. I will tell you that. So
Yeah.
and I use the technology as much as possible because it's easier. But when I was younger, I gained confidence from reading these books and working at this and studying this and crafting and practicing, as putting in the hard work, because it
Yeah.
was like I did not have the option of what we have today, with like podcasts like this. I mean, there's so many successful people out there on the internet that are, giving great advice and, great ways to be successful. And you're one of them, Brooke. It's just, I think it's a gift, but don't underestimate the power of hard work. Hard work will give you confidence. One of the things I always said, we're getting off a little bit here, but I will outwork the competition. I will, and because I feel like I have to, because it's like maybe I don't have the degree that they're looking for. Maybe I don't have the GPA they're looking for. Maybe. So it's like, what do I have? Well, I've got the ability to hustle. I've got the ability to work hard. I've got the ability to, outwork my competitors. It was just a funny story, real quick. I was playing pickleball yesterday, and I'm not very good. Not been playing.
Me
Seriously,
neither.
it's scary. But we're playing against these two guys, and this girl was on my team too, and our woman, and they just tearing us up. And these guys are both tall, long arms, blah blah blah, and they're just knocking the ball right. And I heard after we got done, those guys know each other because they play all the time. I don't come to the pickleball as much, and I heard him say, "Yeah, we were picking on him." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Well, you better enjoy it because they will not always pick on me.
Yep,
I will
exactly.
fight and work, and it's just pickleball." But to me, it's not. It's competition. In competition, you always want to win. At least I do. So
Mhm.
my thought is enjoy it while you can. Get lazy if you have to. Oh, I'm better. I'll just slap this ball around. No, you will for a while, but eventually I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep practicing. I'm going to keep going and I'm going to get better. And I always do because hard work always pays off. It takes a while.
Mhm.
And some people got better, more talent. And these guys they are pretty good, but they're not going to take advantage of me like they did the other day because I won't let them. I'll just keep working until I get better and give them a game, and, we'll see. So do
Yeah, exactly, and that's the biggest thing is technology is great, but it can't replace that hard work. That's the reason why I get up at 5:30 in the morning to work on this podcast, even though, I'm not making money from it yet, here and there a little bit, but it's like it's because I know that I can put in those reps. I know I can put in that hard work and it will get me somewhere. It will pay off eventually, but I have no proof right now. I mean, I do here and there along the way, but it's like you never know until you keep going and some people might think, why are you doing that? You work from home. You don't have to really get up until 9 o'clock in the morning if you don't want to. But I
and
make
most
sure.
people do, and that's the example I'm using with these pickleball guys.
Yeah.
They don't have to get better, they're good.
Mhm.
Well, I do, and I will. So,
Exactly.
my better may never be as good as their best or whatever, but it'll be better than it is today, and I didn't say anything to them, but in my mind, I'm already planting the seed, you know, "Okay, well, we'll see how this turns out," because I've gotta be my biggest cheerleader, my biggest coach, my biggest influencer, because if I don't make it happen, like you getting up early, it's not
Mhm.
gonna happen.
Exactly. Now, the next thing is I wanna kinda connect those dots between documenting those wins along the way. So, that goes into the resume brag book, which we'll get into. People might not know what the brag book is. I know it tried and true. I've got it on my computer. um, and general interview tips. So building that hard work, building those reps, even when you're starting from the bottom, why is it so important to start building a resume about your actual performance and the results that you give instead of just, I did this. I played pickleball, but maybe I played pickleball and I scored 10 points or I scored 10 more points than last year, Why is that important to document that along the way and showcase that outward results versus just saying, "Yeah, I was a sales rep," or anything like
Well, I
that.
think this is and I've not only have I interviewed for jobs in my life like you, but I've also been the person on the other end that had to interview people.
Mhm.
And a lot of times the interviewer comes in and just kind of repeats, yeah, I worked here and my job title was blank and I was responsible for. And it's all true because that's what the company required or that's what the job was about. But you're just basically telling them what the job was about. You're not telling them what you're about. You're
Yeah.
not telling them what you did. You're just telling them they trusted me to be a cashier and I was a cashier. They
Mhm.
trusted me to be a, salesperson and I was a salesperson. So
Yeah.
everybody knows what that means, but it's like, tell me more. Tell
Mhm.
me what you did to accomplish stuff, to make the company money, to make yourself more money. That is one of the things that I think we all need to do, and that goes along with the brag book too. We'll get to that, but we're all doing the job. If not, they're gonna probably gonna can you or get rid of you. The thing you really want to do is make money for the company.
Mhm.
You know, you want to keep customers. I can give you an example, on my resume. Well, in this one task or whatever, and this is more of an interview thing, we have to keep maintain customers because if you lose a customer, you got to go out and get another one, or you may lose three or four because one of them tells somebody else if you guys make a mistake. So the key is point out your successes on your resume. I did this in this year. There was a contest and I came in first in this contest and it made the company money based on my performance. I did this and we kept a contract that we were potentially going to lose because of my efforts. And every company, when they hear this or see that on the resume, they're like, okay, I need to talk to this guy or this
Yep.
person because it's like, why'd that work? How did you do it? Because number one, if you're making things up, they're going to know right away. But
Mhm.
if you're not, and you actually have results to put on your resume and discuss with them, then they're going to say, you know, this is somebody that we should probably have on our team. He did it for XYZ company. He'll do it for us. So, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's what it's all about money. Companies want to be successful. They want to make money. They want to have customers. They want to know that you're productive. You got
Mhm.
good productivity. So they want to know that your resume, or they would like to see that your resume is more than just, oh, yeah, this was my job title and I did this job. Well, great. Was you any good at it? Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I was. Put that on the good. I was good at it. This is what I did there, and I showed improvement. I got better. I had results. Results probably is what's going to make the company decide to pick you over somebody else, because you could prove that you had results.
Right. And that's where too you touched on focusing on that outcome, the results, the specifics of it. Now, one thing that comes to mind that I notice a lot of times when I'm just reviewing other people's resumes or friends or colleagues, things like that, people don't know to quantify things. So, for example, if you're a cashier at a grocery store, for example, if you cash out 100 customers a day. It's quantifying that number, 100 customers, or maybe you led a team of 10 employees. It's putting in those numbers. Is that important?
Yes. I mean, numbers tell the story better
Mhm.
than I was a cashier. Well, great. Sally was a cashier. Who was better, you or Sally? Oh,
Right.
well, I don't know. How do I know? I don't know. Because people don't think like that, right? So
Mhm.
you got to start thinking like, and just like the pickleball example, I know I'm not as good as those guys. They're better at this, but I got better. I'm going to get better. And then the results will show that I moved from here to here to here to here. A lot of times companies, if they see a progression towards the top, they're like, well, he's going to get there. It's going to take time. Do we have the time to waste on him? I don't know. We'll have to see. But if he gets results quickly, it's going to be even better for him and the company. Yeah, putting the numbers, and we can get into the brag book. That is where you bring that with you, and it's got the numbers on
Yep.
paper, and you can show them. Like, here's a contest I was in. Here's where I finished, and here's where 12 other of my peers. Here's where they finished. I
Yeah.
won the contest, and I outperformed every one of them. Well, that's okay. There it is. That's the numbers speak for themselves. And I'll tell you, don't fudge the numbers. They are what they are, but don't bring bad numbers to a brag book or to
Right.
a resume.
We know that.
You don't we don't Nobody wins every contest, and
Yeah.
it's tougher in sales for one thing. One year you go and you have a good year. Well, guess what? You got to beat that next year
Mhm.
in business, right? It's like, oh, last year in April we had 100,000 in sales. Good job. Next year you're going to have 110,000,
Right.
115,000. Why? I just did that last year. Yeah, that was great. But now you got to improve. We always are looking for better. So that's where the numbers come in. And especially if you can prove that, show that with your brag book and your resume, they immediately start seeing a pattern that,
Mm.
okay, we got somebody we need to at least investigate. Won't guarantee you the job. People either like you or they don't like you. They like your results, they don't like your results. And the next person that's going to sit in that chair and talk to them is going to try to impress them too. So you gotta bring your best game. You gotta be ready for it.
And for somebody that's kind of new to this idea of having a brag book, what is it exactly? Is it a list of accomplishments? Is it something that you kind of build along the way and you write things down? Is it a physical book? Is it a
Yeah, it is
what is
actually, it was a binder, and you take like a binder, a professional binder, and pretty thick. It can be. I'm trying to throw Franklin
it? Mhm.
Covey makes good binders and stuff like that, and it's got clear sleeves in it. And you take paper, like I've got some notes here. Okay,
Yep.
and I take these notes and I'm saying, oh, here's a contest. Okay, well, let's put that in there. I want that contest there. That was a good one. How about this? Is that good? Yeah, now this is better. And then you just go front and back. You've got all this I call ammunition to show them that you hit your target and you were in the game. And not only were you in the game and you didn't just finish average or bottom, you finished top. And you don't always have to be number one and win every contest. That's not the case. But you've got to show that you win some and you worked, and you got to be able to explain, how did you win that? How did that
Right.
happen? Was that just a fluke? And
Mhm.
sometimes, in certain contests, you get the benefit of, well, I'm working where Joe was last year, whoever Joe is, and Joe didn't do that well. So Joe's not around anymore, or he quit. He didn't like it. He got frustrated. Well, I come in behind Joe, and it's like, well, I'm not going to, I can produce. Well, I
Mhm.
start producing, and obviously it's like, oh, wow, look at the numbers going up. That's great. But remember, companies know that, can you do it next year? Can you do it? They want to make sure that you can do it for the long term. So if you can show that increase in sales or increase in volume, whether you're doing it as a salesperson or a manager, then you can convince them that you're the right person for this position, and you'll gain more confidence in yourself, and you'll be able to say, you know, yeah, I've got a lot to offer any company. And sometimes I got to the point where I'm like, if I don't get this job, this is going to hurt them worse than it's going to hurt me, because I don't think they're going to find anybody better, which is really cocky and confident. But, it's true. I mean, it
Yeah.
just won't. I love competition. I love winning. I love practicing. And it's like, and I kind of like the underdog a little bit. It's kind of my way that uh, have succeeded in life. Is a lot of people didn't see me coming or see me as competition. And the next thing you know, it's like, wow, look how much I've accomplished. But if I didn't keep that brag book, I probably would have forgot half of it. And I would not remember it when I'm sitting across somebody's desk at an interview or whatever, because you go blank. You forget. They ask you a question that throws you off, but
Mhm.
you've got all this stuff at your fingertips. I mean, you don't even maybe have to pull out the brag book. They may not even care to see it, but you got it. And if you need it, to use as an example, then you can. Or as a close, the interview's over and you probably told them everything and say, hey, do you mind if I show you a few? There's that contest I was telling you about where I did really well. And here's that one thing. Yeah. And it's like, he's not playing. He's seriously done it. And we want him to do it for us.
Yeah, and I've used that in interviews, I've had physical brag book, I've used it through email, sending it to an employer that I wanna work with. "Hey, here's" the resume is kinda like your highlight reel of those top accomplishments, the outcomes of them, and then this is, "Hey, you wanna learn more about how I did this? Here's those specific instances." And I think that's huge, and a lot of people, like, sometimes now they call it, like, a portfolio in different careers, things like that. That's kinda similar. So and I know we're at 30 minutes right now, so we talked about kinda keeping it, moving and keeping it going along, but I still wanna get good information. So, we've got a few more hard-hitting questions that I think would be really valuable for people. Being in that interview seat, you forget things. You start to kind of get nervous. And that's where that brag book comes into play. That's where you have it. You can show it to them after if you don't get a chance during the interview. Sometimes they can be very like snip, snap, let's go. Sometimes you can send it to them after. You can send it to them in an email. You can
Froze.
send it beforehand if they want to take a look. So there's different ways that you can implement it. But from being on the other side of the chair, Dad, you were an entrepreneur for what, 15 years being the owner of a company. What's the biggest mistake that someone makes in an interview and how can they fix it?
For me, I think the biggest mistake and the easiest ones to fix is what I'm trying to do right now. Leaning forward, hope smiling, dress for success, come prepared, come confident. We're all nervous at times, but just try to relax and project your real desire to accomplish this interview as best you can. Do
Mhm.
we want to get the position? Of course we do. We wouldn't be there. But the main thing is lean into it. Don't just sit back and just kind of like, well, I don't know. Well, you got to know. You got to be prepared. And that's the biggest mistake I think people make is they don't show up dressed for success. Lean forward, lean into it. Even on an interview when you're on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
smile. Stuff. People can tell if you're happy. People can tell if you're enjoying things. Sometimes I think during this little conversation, I may look too serious. Sometimes people say, "Smile, you look so serious." It's something I do as a as a person, but I need to stay light and fun and enjoy it. So that would be the biggest mistake I think people make is just not dressing for success, not leaning into the interview. And then you've definitely, this is more than one thing, but the biggest mistake is maybe not asking for the job, closing the interview.
Yeah, yeah. Tell them the magic question. We haven't even touched on that yet. This is
Well,
I asked this in preparation. Everybody, I have asked this in just about every single one of my job interviews that I've had since I was 14. This is something it shocks people, especially if you're part of the younger generation like I am. They're going to be like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, what are you talking about?" People are going to be honestly speechless. That's happened to me multiple times. But it's been so powerful and it kind of knocks them back in the best way of like they know what they're talking about. They know that they are going to be an asset to my company. So tell them what it is.
basically getting back to the close, and that is
Yep.
the ending. And it always happens when they say, "Do you have any questions?" And it's like, people don't know what they do. You have insurance? Do I get vacation? Blah. You don't want to ask that. You're not coming here for vacation time. You're not coming. That's not what's on your mind. You want the job. At least that's what you should be. That's your number one priority. What I do is I set myself up with, well, I've got the brag book. If I've used it, great. If not, I always close with, well, based on everything we've talked about. Now, everything you know about me, and you've seen my resume, you've seen my successes in my brag book. We've talked about a lot of things. Based on everything you've seen here, can you think of any reason why you would not want me for this position? That's it. Just shut up. Just let them answer, but don't talk. Just see what they say.
And
Because to
sometimes
me, that's a good close.
it is. It's asking for the sale. It's asking and it makes them kind of be introspective and think, "Okay, yeah, they did show me a lot." And it's after you kind of back it up with all of your successes. And for me, I've had responses of, "Yeah, we have a lot of." This is kind of like the PC response
Yeah.
saying, "Yeah, we have a lot more candidates. We really enjoyed this interview. You'll be hearing from us in a couple weeks." That's the generic one that I've heard. I've
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
heard
I've heard that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I've also heard the opposite of like, "Oh my gosh, no, actually," and they've offered me the job on the spot and we shook hands right there. I've done that in person, I've done that virtually. It shows that you are going to be confident in that role to get things done and also
Yeah.
shows that you're transparent, that you're not trying to, sweep things under the rug, you're not trying to cover stuff up. You're saying, "Okay, yeah, I do want to know. And if there's something that I can do better, let me know so I can know for the next interview." I think that's a
Yeah.
huge benefit.
Thank you. I just think that if you've done your homework and you've got to practice and polish and you've got to do your homework and you really got to want this position, you've got to want this opportunity, you've got to let them know that. And you got to really try to convince them. And if you didn't go into detail, or if you didn't show them this or show them that, then they may not have all their questions answered. And if you didn't answer the questions well, they're going to say, well, actually, you didn't do too well on that question I asked you. They won't say that obviously to you, probably, but it's a good way for you to check the box and say, drop the mic, whatever it is. This is me. I mean, I've kind of showed you everything, and if I'm not the right person, then that's probably good for me to know too, so I don't get into this situation and regret it later. So to me, it makes a lot of sense, and shows a lot of confidence. The first time you do it or whatever, Brooke, you're right. A lot of people, oh, I would never say that. Oh, I'm not going to say that. Oh, I'm not going to do that. And I get it. And I've never heard anybody ever say it to me when I was interviewing them. Now, the
Mhm.
positions I was interviewing for was different, but it still was a great question to answer, to ask. Can you think of any reason after everything you've known about me or seen about me or now know? Is there any reason why you wouldn't want me for this job? Let them suffer.
Yeah. Let the chips fall where they lie or whatever that saying is. Yeah. So I have one other really important question that I think would really be beneficial to everyone listening. You've talked about learning from successful people in your life.
Yes.
I know a little bit of the backstory. You've listened to different sports coaches. You listened to, and I think you saw him in person, Zig Ziglar. You wrote him a letter, even heard
Yep.
back from him. You found those successful people in your life and even throughout different jobs. How can somebody find mentors or role models without already being connected?
All right. So I do have cheat notes here.
It's all good. That's your brag book that you got written down there.
Yeah. So finding people that are very successful. I had a lot of friends in my lifetime. I think I've told you, you know this. Some of them I drank beer with. Some of them I watched football with. They're great friends. But when it comes to the world of growing successfully in business and stuff, you want to surround yourself with quality people that are already doing this or have done it. So I tried to latch on to them and make friends with them and listen and talk and explain. I mean, I'm not backwards about it. I tell them what I'm doing. Hey, I want to learn from you. Do you mind mentoring me? And that's how I got better at all this. There was a gentleman who was very good at this interviewing, and he taught me, and I listened, and I went home and practiced. And guess who got better at it? Me. So, you really need to try to surround yourself with people like even your boss. It could be your boss that you work for. It could be anybody that you see qualities of leadership. They're honest. The person I met when I started my company, I met them like 34 years before we ever started a business. And we were working at a job that had nothing to do with what we ended up doing. But I just knew that this guy's got some qualities that I like. He's sharp, smart, funny. I think he's going to do well, and I want to kind of want to be like him. I think he's got it, whatever it is. So I stayed in contact with him, and we didn't, like I said, we worked together in our 20s, and we didn't start our company to our 40s, late 40s. So it was one of those things where I just stayed in contact with him, thinking maybe someday there'll be something that he wants to do that I want to do that would work out timing wise. And it did. And it was the best thing because you never know when an opportunity is going to arise, and you're going to want people in your corner or want people on your team that are good at being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, being good in sales or management or whatever they do. So, I did that and it worked. Now you can do it with Zig Ziglar. You can do it with books, How to Think and Grow Rich. A lot of the books I've kind of shown you and talked to you about over the years, there's some great inspirational, informational stuff that it's like, get the negative out of your life, get the positive into your life. And that includes the people you hang out with. And when it comes to successful people, sometimes it happens by accident, not for the most part. It's hard work. They've had their ups and downs just like anybody else, but they've done it and they know it. And so you can basically know that you're talking to somebody who, if you're going to do it for the first time, they've already done what you're about to do and
Yeah.
they've done it well. That doesn't mean every company succeeds. It doesn't always, but they've done it. So you can learn from them, and I would recommend you do that. The other thing I did was I joined the country club. Now that's just after we got our company going and stuff like that, and things were going better. Joining the country club is expensive, and not everybody can do it. But you surround yourself with special entrepreneurs or people who own companies or used to own companies or franchises and accountants, doctors, insurance companies. Well, you want to be connected with the people who basically you really need in your life: attorneys, insurance people, accountants, entrepreneurs. They're not all at the country club, but a lot of them are. And there's some people that are not, that the judge or whatever, but they're also there too. So that's a great place to connect with people that you can use and learn, and just, you don't have to zap them every time with questions and stuff. Not like that at all. But it's kind of like my first years, I realized it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm qualified to do this. I don't know if I'm smart enough to be in these classes. And then I looked around and I'm like, okay, I know about as much as these guys do. And I got confidence. And the same thing with the country club. It's like, well, these guys are sharp, and they're probably a lot of them a lot sharper than me. But it's like they're really good, down to earth people. They want to help you succeed if they can. They'll listen to you, talk with you. If you're just good person, talk back and forth. They like hanging out with you. That's the key. People like hanging out with me. So a lot of times they're not thinking that I'm just out for bad things, but I'm always listening and learning and trying to compete in my own mind. It's like, I can do that. Yeah, I can do this. And to me, it's very helpful to surround yourself with those winners.
Mhm.
And like I said, doesn't mean every job they had they won it. Doesn't mean that their companies all of them succeeded, but they had the guts to do it, and they have the
Mhm.
right mental attitude. And then most of them are very positive, honest, sincere. And there's a trend you start to see in successful people that you may
Mhm.
not see in your drinking buddies. You may not see, and I drink with a lot of them now. I play golf with them. So it's not like that's the relationship is, hey, let's teach Craig got to be better running his company. But if I ask them, they'll help me. If I say, "Hey,
Yeah.
you ever go through this?" "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah," all the time, and it's like it gives you a sense of, "I'm not the only one who has this problem, or I'm not the only one who struggles with this. There's others who have the same."
Yeah. And I think with the country club, it's like, it truly is, it's kind of a metaphor in my mind of, because, we might have some listeners that aren't in a position to join something like that, where it's, a paid membership, things like that. But it's really a metaphor of the people you surround yourself with, and being able to recognize that, yes, you might have your drinking buddies on the weekends and whatever, but you also have, once you have a person, it doesn't even have to be multiple people, like, your old business partner, once you have one person that you're like, hey, I kind of like the way they think. I kind of like their attitude every day, or I like the way that they've done something before, or maybe they have dreams of doing big things. And you hold on to that person. You try to hang out with them more. You try to listen to them more, talk with them more. And then you start to kind of build your circle. And it could be even just going to free meetup events in your area. Like for me, I'm
Yeah,
part
and
of.
they've got tons of them.
Yeah, exactly, and it could be, you might need to drive 30 minutes away and go to it, or an hour away, and maybe it's only once a month, but when you get in that room, you physically feel the difference. You feel the mental shift of what it's like to be in that room with people that have dreams and goals and hopes, and you start to feel like, "Well, yeah, I'm not crazy." Like, I know that these things are possible for me, even if I'm not in the best situation right now, or if I'm not in that job that I want to be in. These people are either doing it too, and they're riding alongside with me, or they've done it before, like you said, learning from
Yeah,
everybody. Yeah.
yeah,
And I've kind of noticed that over the years as well.
yeah,
And that,
I think it's
yeah,
important.
yeah.
No, no, no. Yeah, I do. I think it's important. I mean, the people I used to hang out with when I was younger, and a lot of times you hang out with your family too, and that's good. But it's like you are sometimes judged by the people you hang out with, and it's
Mhm.
like if they're great, successful, blah blah blah, you kind of fall into that category. If they're not and they've got issues, then it's like you kind of fall into that bucket. To me, it's really important that you surround yourself with good quality, hardworking, honest people, and they're everywhere. And you just, like I said, you don't know where you're going to meet them or where you're going to find them, but they're out there, and they love helping. They love helping people who are looking for help.
Yeah. And I think another thing too is if you haven't quite found those people yet, or if you're still kind of looking for that spot to be in, that's where it comes in with the books and listening to speeches and coaches and podcasts. That's my goal here with this podcast, is to be that source of information for people that might not have it in their day-to-day life, or if they do, they want more of it. They want to soak up more of that energy and more of that success. And I'm only 29. I'm fumbling around figuring it out, but here I am. And that's the goal of this podcast. So I'm really glad that we've gotten a chance to sit down and kind of bottle these opportunities and these experiences that you've had, to showcase that to somebody else. If you guys, if you're in that position where you're like, I just need a little motivation, replay this. We've had my dad back on another episode way back in like 2022 or 2023, I think. It was just audio, so you won't find it on YouTube, but it's back there on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You got to scroll. But he talks about his journey as an entrepreneur and his journey into entrepreneurship. So if that's something that interests you, feel free to go back and listen. I'll also link it with this episode. at the bottom just in case you want more, if you want to soak up more of my dad's advice. And
Be careful.
I'm so glad that you've been here with me and you're continuing to teach me still. It's like you're kind of my go to person whenever I don't know what to do in life, or if I have a question about something as small as should I think about investing in this, or should I do this move, or whatever. It's like, call my dad, or even just little things, you know?
And if you remember, a lot of times what I tell you is I just kind of say, do it. If
Yeah,
you think you should, do it.
exactly.
I mean, I
You.
don't know. I don't know for sure. I didn't know that that company was going to work. I didn't know that that job was going to work. I didn't know that obviously my degree was not maybe the best choice, but it actually ended up being a great choice because it got me through to where I'm at today. I'll give you advice. I'll say, hey, it's tough to move out of your comfort zone and go to another state because it's good to have people that you can connect with. You can get on the phone and say, hey, dad, I don't know what the problem is, but can you look at this? I can't do it if you're 10 hours away. So there's some downsides to that, but for the most part, it's like, my advice to all of my kids and anybody else is do it and be careful. Don't jump around too much. You'll never know until you try.
Yeah, I think that's a drop the mic moment. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners that we haven't touched on? We are about an hour in, so
Okay.
we're
No, I'm
54.
good.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to, one last thing on that last comment about the country
Mhm,
club and stuff. It's like, you don't need a lot of friends or partners, but you do need a few. I mean, so I have a lot of people I chat with and stuff, but really close, loyal friends and partners and people that I trust and stuff. There's only a few. There's only a handful. You don't have to have 20, 30 friends, so to speak. You only need a few, but be careful who you hang out with, surround yourself with, because that will make a difference in your life on maybe your direction you go. And definitely, and it could be your own family, but be careful to stay away from negative people. My
mhm,
my family has been negative to me at times. Oh, I don't know if I'd try that. Oh, I don't know if I'd do that. Well, what about this? I mean, we're always told in life, uh, we're not good enough or we're not, that's risky or, everything in life's risky. But,
mhm,
do not let negative people define you. You define yourself and be careful. They may have good advice. They may be correct in what they're saying, but don't not do something because your brother said, I wouldn't do that if I was you, or your dad. Your dad's, and I could have directed you a little bit more if I really wanted to be pushy. You may have pushed back, and you may have said, no, don't it anyway, Dad, whatever. But don't feel like if people are kind of negative and saying, don't try this, don't risk this, you're too old, you're too whatever, you're too young. Don't let that define you. You decide for yourself what you can handle. So that's it.
yeah, I think that's huge, and that's exactly like, you can't control life, but you can control your response to it, and a lot of the negative type of people, they kinda get bogged down by life in general, and that, "Oh, this happened to me. Oh, this is going on. Oh, I can't
Yeah.
do this because of this," and it's like, you keep moving. You don't life doesn't care, you know?
No,
Life
it
isn't
doesn't.
taking it easy just because you say it sucks, like,
No.
it's the fact that you have to build that resilience and kind of put up your blinders and say, okay, yeah, I do need to put a boundary between me and that person that's negative a lot of the time. Or I do need to, set that up and make sure that yes, I might have to see them or interact with them, but I'm not going to internalize what they're saying. So I think that's really huge. And I'm so glad that you've been here. And to me, it's like, it's the most valuable information that anybody can get. It's how to succeed in life, it's how to be successful in your career, because whether you like it or not, we have to work for money unless, you've got some kind of lottery winnings or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's tangible tips that everybody needs.
Yeah. Well, if anybody reaches out to you, Brooke, and they have other questions, get them and
Mhm.
we'll go over them. If they've got, hey, what did you think about, or what do you guys think about? Have them reach out to you. I mean, it's like one of the things I used to do, and I'm not going to do it here, but one of the things I used to do was always give my cell phone out to all the customers. If I get a customer complaint or whatever in my business, I'd say, here, I'm the owner, call me. Here's my cell phone. Now, I never got calls, which shocks me because I thought you're risking it by saying that and doing it. But it's like just letting people know that you care and that they can call you. It means a lot to people. It shows them you care, and people do really want to know. They have somebody that cares about them. So if anybody reaches out to you, please let me know, or we can do another show, podcast, whatever, to discuss some other questions. But I think that would be my way of saying, here's my number. My number's Brooke. So, and contact her and we'll see what we can do.
That's right. And that's the perfect ending to the episode too, because normally like I ask people where they can find them, what website they have, what social media, stuff like that. So, like I said before, my dad's retired. He has been very successful in his life, still is. And if you do want to reach out to him, let me know personally, drop a comment, send me a message on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Let me know and I'll get you connected. And he's here. He's here to provide amazing advice. And thank you for being here, Dad. I know we've been sitting chatting like we're at a cafe. That's what we do at the Blonde Cafe. And I'm so thankful to have you.
Thank you. Same here, and I'm so proud of you. I love you. And I just think that what you're doing is awesome. You're helping people. And that's really important. I mean, to me, helping people is almost as important as anything we do. It's like, yeah, did I make myself successful? Yeah. Did I help my family, along the way? Yeah, sure. I helped a lot of people too, in my company and just hopefully other ways. I think that's what we're here for, is to help others.
Yeah, I agree. And with that, I hope to see you guys back on the next episode. Like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see it live. If you're on Apple Podcast, if you're on Spotify, I'll drop all of the links down in the notes below to his old episode. And I can't wait to talk to you guys soon.
Bye, Brooke.
Bye.